So, let's say you are a new or returning PC gamer. Maybe you finally managed to upgrade your machine and now your budget for games took a hit. Well, don't worry because the Microsoft Game Pass PC got you covered. The value it offers makes it the best subscription platform out there, and for $9.99 there are dozens of games that you can play. But if you're not sure about it, or you don't know where to start, here's 30 games, ordered alphabetically, that you should definitely play. Also, while recording this list, Microsoft added a lot of Bethesda games, and EA Play to the Game Pass, so take that in mind.
My dog. Who did this? Leon! Leon!
What devilry is this? We must go. Immediately.
First, we have A Plague Tale: Innocence, a beautiful and violent adventure game where you play with a girl named Amicia and her younger brother Hugo during the Black Plague. The game has very simple stealth and combat mechanics, but the real selling points are the hordes of rats that you need to avoid using light while solving puzzles to help you progress. The game is stunning visually and holds no punches at showing the horrors of what is one of the darkest eras in human history.
They're scared of the light!
Oklema? Salmus.
Age of Empires is one of the most popular real-time strategy games of all time, and it was one of the games that I played most during my childhood, as many probably did. The 3 games of the series have been updated to support up to 4K resolution, with new assets and balancing, full multiplayer support, and even new content for some of them. If you like this genre or just want to relive some of your memories, you shouldn't really skip this series.
Make sure not to sail too close to this fortification. Like
Next we have Alan Wake, an action game with a very interesting component of survival horror mixed in, created by Remedy Entertainment. It follows the story of Alan Wake, a writer that is currently going through a creative rut. When his wife disappears, the plot of a novel he doesn't remember writing starts coming to life, mixing reality and fiction even in a very scary way. The game features some very interesting mechanics, like using light to weaken your enemies, and is structured like a TV series, which makes it very interesting. It's definitely worth playing. After the failure that was Colonial Marines, Alien Isolation surely had low expectations. However, the end result was an amazing game, and the best version of Alien that was ever put into the video game. The game clearly takes inspiration from Outlast, giving you very few tools to fight the enemies, and relying more on a stealth and hide-and-seek mechanics to help you survive. The Alien AI is incredible, and each time you fight back, it will learn and adapt, changing its tactics. Just have some extra underwear ready, because this game will scare you shitless.
God damn it!
When Celeste came out, I was pleasantly surprised by how good it was. It's one of those platformers that feels so good to play and even better to speedrun. Each level introduces new mechanics, mixing them and increasing the challenge as you progress. The game can also be very hard, especially if you want to do the secret levels and find every collectible to complete 100% of the game.
Bureau of Control. All these years I've been looking for them and they were hiding in plain sight.
Next we have Control, another game by Remedy. It was one of the best games of 2019. You play as Jesse, the new director of the Federal Bureau of Control that specializes in investigating paranormal activities. The game will mess with your head just because of the amount of twists and turns it has during the story. It's also one of the first games to use ray tracing illumination, so it's a good benchmark to test your new RTX or big Navi card.
It's been 5 years since we last received a microwave power transmission from the lunar colony. At first, no one believed it would be possible to transmit energy from the moon back to Earth, but the WSA proved the skeptics wrong. Just like
Deliver Us the Moon is a story-driven adventure game where you need to investigate what happened in a colony station on the moon. With the Earth's natural resources depleted, humanity turns to a new energy source found on the moon, but something went very wrong on the station and it's up to you to investigate. The game is very beautiful and features very interesting puzzles, especially the ones in zero gravity, with limited oxygen that leads to really tense situations. It's not a very long game, but it's definitely worth the afternoon you will spend playing it.
Isolate 3 plausible causes for the MPT blackout. 1, the transmitter at Pearson Space Station.
Claire, there you are. Come on, we're celebrating in the other room. Everyone is looking for you.
I need to go over this one last...
Where's the Royal Protector? There's a coup underway. My father is... he's imprisoned, for lack of a better word.
Dishonored 2 is the sequel to one of the best action games by Bethesda, and it's everything you want from a sequel, bigger and better. You can play with Corvo Attano or Emily, now grown up and more than capable of kicking ass. The sandbox offers even more approaches than the first game, and each character has different powers to help you progress through the levels. You can also go on a killing spree, or as a silent ghost that doesn't kill anybody, and the game gives you every tool to play the way you want.
Oh, you little shit! You! Come on, let's finish this!
One of the best games of 2020, Doom Eternal is another very good sequel to an already amazing game. It goes deeper in the lore and Doomguy's past. It's incredibly violent and features a banger of a soundtrack. The pacing isn't as good as Doom 2016, and the chainsaw mechanics could be better implemented, but everything else is several steps up from the previous game. Dragon Quest VIII is one of my favorite games of all time. Dragon Quest XI, while not as good as 8 in my opinion, is still easily one of the best RPGs of the last generation. The story is so good and well told, with a large cast of interesting characters and some really dark plot twists. The version of the Game Pass is the Definitive Edition S, which includes more content and a 2D mode that recalls to the early Dragon Quest games on the NES and the SNES. It's really a must-play.
You there? Can you hear me?
It's as I feared. They're slowing us down.
Do not say that. Not all of us are here for love of battle. He fights to defend his homeland.
Final Fantasy XII was a really popular game on the PS2 that was remastered for the PS4 and Xbox One and PC, with support to higher resolutions and 60 frames per second. The story is very good and the world is huge, with tons of stuff to explore. You can play in English or Japanese and choose between the original or remastered soundtrack. While there are more Final Fantasy games in the Game Pass, namely 7, 8 and 9, I think the ports of those games for PC are a bit problematic, especially 9 that has some minigames that are unplayable due to input lag, so I decided to focus more on Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah.
Because that's not a real thing. I just made it up to get you lot excited about the next showcase event that's about to start. Yeah, well, I'm full of lines like that. If you want to hear more, you'll just have to listen to Mel here on XS.
Forza Horizon 4 is one of the best racing games out there, and plays like a charm on PC. Very good visually with smooth performance to match, you can freely explore the United Kingdom inspired scenarios with a ton of different cars, events and weather seasons that change the world and the way the cars behave. If you prefer a more closed environment, however, you can also play Forza Motorsport 7 that is more circuit based and also features tons of cars, good graphics and optimization.
You're listening to XS. Now, just...
Next, we have Frostpunk, a simulation and strategy game where you need to help your colony of survivors, well, survive the harsh cold of the new Ice Age. For that, you will need to gather resources, keep your colonists warm and provide them with shelter. It's not an easy game and you must really micromanage everything, because any mistake can lead to sickness, hunger and discontent, making your life and the lives of the survivors a literal cold hell.
Control, we're going in.
Control? Really? I have a name. Control.
Regs are regs, Bear. I mean, Control.
And we're already breaking enough of them as it is.
What Jin doesn't know won't hurt her. This is my call, all right? If the First Minister doesn't like it, she can yell at me. Which she almost certainly will.
Tell us where to go, Control.
I'll do my best, but remember, no one's been in that facility for like 25 years.
Yeah, that's pretty evident.
While Gears 2 and 3 are not present on PC, for some reason that I just can't understand, you can still play the definitive edition of Gears 1 and then Gears 4 and 5. These games are so much fun and violent, keeping that old style of linear shooters that you just don't see too much these days, at least with this level of quality. Gears 5 especially is a graphical monster, it also runs very well, so if you manage to snag one of those RTX 3000 cards, good luck with that, you can play this game at a tasty 4K 60 FPS without any problem.
What happened?
Chief, please respond. What is your status? Over. If you can hear me, find transport. Head to the town of Ford.
Halo was the game on the original Xbox. It popularized the FPS genre in consoles, and its multiplayer is regarded as one of the best of all time. Halo Master Chief Collection brings Halo 1, 2, 3, ODST, 4 and Reach to PC with improved graphics and support to higher frame rates, making Halo 5 the only game of the series that is not present on PC currently. It's a legendary collection that you must play at least once in your lifetime.
Just keep coming!
Check your fire! It's the chief! Flush him out, sir! We'll nail him with that!
You took him from me. I beg you.
Hellblade is an impressive looking action game that blends hack and slash, puzzle solving and psychological horror in a way that very few games ever could. You play as Senua, a warrior that must travel to Helheim, the Norse version of Hell, fight demons and struggle with the darkness, a metaphor for psychosis. The gameplay isn't the best, the combat is a bit stiff, but the story and environments make the game definitely worth playing.
They surround you!
Doc, what are they gonna do with us? Where we going? I ain't going nowhere till you tell me what's happening.
Get back in line. Now.
Injustice 2 is a very good fighting game, created by NetherRealm Studios, the makers of Mortal Kombat. The gameplay has many similarities with Mortal Kombat, but features DC characters instead. NetherRealm is, in my opinion, the studio that makes fighting games with the best graphics and creates the best stories, something that isn't usually a focus on this genre. If you like fighting games, DC, or both, you should definitely check this out.
There's no peace in revenge.
Next, we have another one of the best games of 2020, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it's a revolutionary game. Using satellite images from Bing Maps, Azure AI, and 3D assets, it can recreate the entire world in a way that any other game couldn't even think about. If you ever wanted to go to a specific city or place in the planet, you can just load that location and fly above it, nothing is forbidden. The game does perform poorly, and you need a beefy machine to enjoy it at high settings, but it's worth every single minute. Middle-earth Shadow of War doesn't have the best story, and the gameplay can be somewhat repetitive, but the incredible Nemesis system makes up for all that. The ability to create rivals in the game that adapt to your attacks, have strengths and weaknesses you can explore, and that can ambush you out of nowhere is an experience that no other series can provide, and never will, especially now that Warner Bros. Secured a patent for it. The game is also very good visually, easily the best looking Middle-earth game, and it's worth checking out. Mount & Blade Warband is a cult classic that must be played by everyone. Yes, its graphics are dated as hell and were never that good to begin with, but everything else is amazing. You start from nothing, gather your army bit by bit, and increase your influence with the nobles of this huge game world. As you become more and more powerful, you will create enemies, conquer castles and entire kingdoms, or lose everything because a rival noble with a bigger army decided that he doesn't like you anymore. It's a truly great experience. No Man's Sky has really improved since launch. It runs better, looks better, and its mechanics are much more intuitive. It also points you in the right direction at first, making you not feel as lost at understanding what you need to do. It's one of those games that you can play to relax, especially if you play in casual mode where you don't need to worry about resources. There is something very special about just boarding your ship, flying it from one planet to another seamlessly, and discover new animals and races. Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps are Metroidvania-style games that feature some of the best artwork ever put into a game. The stunning scenarios and colorful characters give so much life to a game that can be very dark and challenging. They also run very well on modest machines, which means everyone can experience this wonderful series of games.
Ambush!
Hey there.
Created by Obsidian Entertainment, Pillars of Eternity is a very good isometric RPG and a spiritual successor to games like Baldur's Gate. It's party-based with real-time combat that you can pause anytime to micromanage each character. The story offers a wide range of choices that can influence who joins your party, lives or even dies. It's not the best looking RPG out there, but it has that classic feeling from the 90s that should feel nostalgic to many. After the poor reviews of Resident Evil 6, Capcom decided to do a complete 180 and return Resident Evil to its survival horror roots. However, the game didn't return to a fixed camera and tank controls, but rather to a first-person horror game, and the game is phenomenal. It became my favorite Resident Evil of all time, with the remake of 2 being a close second due to the great story, visuals and gameplay. Capcom seems to be expanding on this formula with Resident Evil Village, and the Maiden demo is a good showcase of what's coming. Sea of Thieves was really barebones when it came out, but since then it received more content and events, making it a very good experience, especially if you play with friends. You can go on adventures, explore islands and discover treasures, fight other pirates and board their ships. The graphics are also very good with great water physics, and if you can play with friends while role-playing, the experience is elevated to another level. Shadow Warrior 2 shifted a bit from the first game in terms of structure, going from a linear game to a more roguelike experience with several scenarios to play, but the comedy, violence and swag are all still there. The game looks and plays very good, and features some cool techniques like the NVIDIA multi-res shading, that reduces resolution in the areas of the screen you are not focusing, greatly increasing frame rate. So, I have one question for all of you. Who wants some wang?
Orbital hull failure. Cause unknown. Zero human life signs detected.
Even though I'm not a fan of survival games, Subnautica really managed to hold my attention. It's a very relaxing game with good survival mechanics that makes you feel lost at first, but when you understand what to do, the experience is almost transcending. After crashing into an alien planet, you find yourself in the middle of an ocean, with a damaged pod and scarce supplies. You need to explore the water surrounding you for raw materials that allow you to survive and repair your pod. There are several biomes filled with fauna and flora, caves you can explore, and dangers around every corner. Truly an incredible game. After Fallout went from isometric RPG to an action RPG in first and third person, Wasteland remained true to its origins. Wasteland 3 is one of the best games of 2020 and features deep RPG mechanics with many skills and roles to unlock, a story with many paths and choices, and turn-based combat that can be very unpredictable. The post-apocalyptic scenarios are harsh and very detailed, and the game runs very well, given the always present weather effects like snow.
I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms. Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately.
What Remains of Edith Finch is a story-driven exploration game, where you play as Edith Finch that just returned home. Her family is afflicted by a curse that led to the deaths of most of its members, usually in strange circumstances, so it's up to Edith to investigate. The game presents each one of those deaths from a different perspective, and some moments will punch you in the gut. Very hard. It's truly a wonderful and gritty experience at the same time, and you should definitely check this one out.
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to. The woods around the house have always been uncomfortably silent, as if they're about to say something.
なんだと? 痛い目見ねえとわかんねえか. さっさと来い.
The Yakuza series is legendary, spanning from the PlayStation 2 era to the PlayStation 4, and finally, you can play almost every game on PC through Game Pass. You can play Zero, Kiwami 1 and 2, which are the remakes of the first two games, and then you have Remastered Collection, that includes 3, 4 and 5. Only 6 is yet not on PC. This is a crime drama focusing on the ex-Yakuza Kazuma Kiryu that keeps getting involved in his whole life in every game. The writing and the voice acting are phenomenal. The combat changes a bit from game to game, but it's always satisfying and challenging. You have a very detailed city to explore and many minigames to play. So, these were 30 games you should play on your Xbox Game Pass PC. Of course there are many others, and each month they add even more games. If you also own an Xbox One or Xbox Series, you can instead choose the ultimate version of the Game Pass, that includes the Live Gold, exclusive console games, older games with improved resolutions and frame rates, and even xCloud that gives you access to your games on any device using the cloud. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe as it really helps the channel. See you in the next video.